Today we are showing you something absolutely amazing. This is a grinder that I've had for a fair bit, and people have asked me a lot of questions about it. They said, what is this? I've used a lot of Titan grinders in the past year or so, and this is one of them that's just so special because it kind of just deletes everything else. It is so much better than any other grinder I have ever used, and that's because you can basically quadruple the value of your grinder in one move. There's a stock Rancilio Rocky here. It's, just run-of-the-mill grinder, right? It's all right. But once you tilt it on its side, you suddenly have a grinder that is basically worth 10 times more. You're now playing with the big boys, the big league, right here. Tilted, just like your Monoliths, just like your EG1s, just like your P64s. Boom. Amazing. So
45 degrees better, Brian.
45 degrees. So it is highly debated. What degrees do you go with? And as you can see here, 45 degrees. So the thing here is that you might have tried a stock Rocky before, and a lot of stock Rockies probably don't taste very good because they have these dosers on them, and it kind of sucks because you're getting all this old coffee in here. Solve that problem by actually doing a single dosing setup, and the burrs in here are all basically perfectly aligned. We got some different mods in here that help really get the coffee into the burrs and you getting a way better grinding experience. But the thing that I think is most interesting about this is this tilt here. So actually adding this 45-degree tilt does actually do a fair bit of... So to kind of highlight what this tilt is doing, I'm just going to grind some coffee and show you, because this tilt actually does a ton, which is hilarious when you think about it. But all jokes aside, this is still a Rocky at the end of the day, but doing some of these modifications will actually really make your life a bit easier. Now, will this make your Rocky worth $3,000? Debatable, honestly. When you think about it, when you spend $3,000 on a coffee grinder, what you are paying for is that low retention, low clumpiness, and you get that when you tilt your Rocky to the side. Okay, so I'm just going to weigh out like 10 grams or something. This is not ultra light, but yeah, we'll put in 10 grams of coffee here. And this is going to be set to a espresso setting. And basically what's also worth mentioning is this does have a stepless mod on it. So big benefit of having a stepless mod and making your life a lot easier on using a Rocky. But as you see, we're kind of near that 0 point on here anyway.
The zero on this grinder is actually -4 or 5.
Oh, okay, so we're not ultra close, but
yeah.
we're near the actual mark of 0. That's been around what I've been using for espresso, and it's been working pretty all right. 10 grams, very straightforward. Now the thing is, this is a Rocky. This is gonna take a long time to grind, and it is kind of loud. But there are some adjustments here, as you can kind of see, and it really just helps get the coffee through. So funnel here, that's completely removable, that you can stick in here, and then you pour the beans in. So I'm just gonna put this, I'm gonna untighten the Rocky real quick. Pour the coffee in, goes through the top, and then if I just do this, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this. Okay, here. And then I'm just gonna grind here the on-off switches on the side. Definitely gonna put that popcorn shield back on. So might be very difficult to see here, but there are definitely some amount of clumps, and there is retained coffee there, 8 grams. So and then there was a little bit of a chunk that flew out here, but yeah, you lose about 2 grams here. That's kind of been my average, like definitely 1.5 to 2 grams. You would lose that if you don't tighten your Rocky. And this is, of course, no puffer or anything there, but if you just I just take my finger and knock the grounds through there.
Not recommended.
Not recommended. Yeah, that only gets me to 8.3 grams. So 0.3. The rest is somewhere in this grinder. You get this problem when you don't tighten it, but the grounds just do get stuck in that chute like that. So I'm taking a chopstick and I'm just scooping the grounds out. And there you go, 9.6, 9.5 grams. But that's because you don't have a tightened, tilted Rocky. So now let's tilt the Rocky. I've tilted the Rocky. I'm just going to now repeat that exact test. Use 10 grams, do the exact same thing. All right, 10 grams. Going to now give it a RDT. And I'm gonna put the beans in. So having the tilt actually really helps those beans get right in there, especially because we have a funnel. And then what you can do is you can also take the little bean thruster or the anti-popcorning lid, stick it in there, and give it a ground. So you'll notice that the coffee grounds are going to be a lot less clumpy, and they're actually gonna come out when you start the grinder. It's not gonna be like grind and then push the coffee out like you saw when it wasn't tilted. Much faster, much less, way less clumpier, just much better overall. And 10 grams, which is like, that's just literally just reading 10 grams here. Like
not
that,
bad.
yeah, that is, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, you know, maybe some exchange here or there. I don't know what the exchange is, have not measured it at all. But the point here is that if you look over here in the chute, if I try to take the chopstick, I could redo the same thing. Not a lot of coffee comes out, so maybe a little like 0.1 right there. It wasn't like clumps and clumps that get stuck in that chute like before. So there are some huge advantages from a workflow and retention standpoint from just tilting your grinder on its side. And that's what's hilarious about the Titan Rocky. Or really, it's not funny, it's actually pretty legit that doing this actually does something. And that might be why some really high-end fancy Titan grinders actually tilt the grinders on their side. Now, does that actually affect in-cup results? If, for example, if I do a shot between non-tilted versus tilted, absolutely not. But maybe you can trick yourself into thinking it's better because you've tilted your grinder to the side and you can now call your grinder a Titan grinder. But I'll pull a shot here and I'll have John try a little bit of it. But honestly, it's a Rocky. What are you expecting here? These grounds look pretty good. It's legit. Very viable setup. Now, the thing to mention with the Rocky is, like, you know, a lot of people trash these things because, you know, you only see old people use it. But there's a reason why you see old people use these grinders. It's because this Rocky is like 20 years old, basically. And that is amazing because when you think about it, it's like, this is a grinder that still works. I am using a grinder that's almost as old as me, which is hilarious. But at the same time, there's a big value thing. When you think about how expensive this grinder is, like what, 400 bucks? You can pretty confidently spend 400 bucks and have a grinder last a decade, 2 decades. And for some of you who don't want to achieve better things in life, and for some of folks out there who maybe are drinking, say, darker roast coffees like this, or you don't really want to explore any further, you're happy with how your coffee tastes, then honestly, Rocky isn't a bad choice. It really isn't. But it just provides, in today's landscape, you know, a very standard cup. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that for the money, there are some better options on the market.
This grinder was $20 a year for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So think about it that way.
So your cost is much lower. In this kind of final form with all these modifications, the only complaint I would have is just the grind speed and the noise. Just, it's a little bit on the louder side. But to be honest, it's okay. Like, this is not unlivable. It's just as loud, I would say, as a DF64. Actually, have you tried the Inamils? I feel like this is probably pretty close to Inamils.
The Inamils are pretty bad, but I didn't season them, so.
Okay, well, yeah. Anyway, this is not going to be your crazy high clarity burst set. Look, this is a very standard grinder. Like, you know, it's not going to be ultra high clarity. You can do some techniques to make it clearer. Like, you can definitely go crazy and try to do turbos and all of that. But honestly, I think it's much better when using more comforting roasts. But we are pulling, this says filter, so that's against the rules, right? Like, you just, I don't know.
We'll see how the Rocky does today.
Yeah, but peach, fresh cream, and vanilla. This is looking like a solid medium. So that's probably the extent of what I would pull on a Rocky. But the grounds coming out of this, pretty fluffy, nice and easy to work with. And because you do the tilt, they're really easy to WDT. So nothing is too insane. You don't have to break up all these clumps. All you have to do is really distribute and level them, which is nice to say. But yeah, standard stuff. Nothing wrong with standard. We're just gonna pull on the Flair 58, just gonna do some standard 18 in, 36 out action. Because I think that's really where the Rocky does the best in, is just really standard stuff. Okay. I think I ground too fine.
Oh no.
No? I could do a bloom too. I ground too fine. Ramping down. Cut it 35.66, which is all right. But like, I did do a bloom. This was definitely ground way too fine, or not way too fine, but I did do a bloom on that.
See, at least you can. The Rocky's good enough to choke grinder. I mean.
Yeah, you can grind. Yeah. Yeah. So accidentally did choke. Find out.
I'll try one of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bitter.
A little bitter. Okay.
It's pretty astringent.
I'm gonna pull. We're pulling this dark. We're gonna pull this dark.
Not great.
Okay, let's reset. Do a dark roast. Yeah. So these dark roast coffees are gonna be a perfect match for the Rocky, and also a lot of other conical bursts. So that's really what kind of is funny about the Rocky, is that it does remind me a lot of some of these smaller conical burst sets, or not burst sets like the Q2, but more like the burst sets in something like Acete 270. You need a lot of water. They extract definitely very slowly, but nothing wrong with that. And I think it works out really well for folks who like traditional roasts. At least in my experience, I've been seeing a lot of people buy Rockies because other people have been using them for 20-something years. And that's really that's pretty commendable. It's like, there's a grinder that works pretty well for that long. But this is just, if you take it to the next level, this is the furthest you can take a Rocky. Should you do it? Probably not, but I do think the tilt mod, and I do think the alignment and the stepless mod do make the experience of using Rocky so much better. Does it make the coffee taste better? Not really, but it makes living with one so much easier. And you can grind directly into a portafilter. Not the cleanest, because I'm holding this at an angle for the camera. The grounds do bounce out everywhere, but that's just kind of because of how the coffee exits the chute. But let's go ahead and pull a shot. We're using a dark roast coffee, and honestly, works great. I think for dark roast coffees, it works fine because the Rocky is just not a very clear grinder. And with these dark roast coffees, I don't know if you actually want to be able to taste clarity, or you don't really need something or necessarily want something that is such high extracting or fast extracting in these dark roast coffees. I'm not taking any jabs at some folks, but I think people who swear and live and defend the Rocky, they're probably drinking coffee like this. But yeah, nothing wrong with that. So dark roast it is. That's what we're drinking today, but it works out fine because it's a Rocky. I don't know. I'm forcing my friend John here to suffer by drinking these charcoal roasts, but we're using an espresso roast for an espresso, not some whack filter roast. So I could also pull this as a ristretto, and it probably would taste really good.
Yeah, maybe 1 to 7.5.
So much hesitance in his voice. So much hesitance. Don't
Maybe
believe.
one and a half. Yeah.
You don't believe in these amazing dark roast coffees. Well, you know, Rocky works fine for this. A bit more, a bit extra. And I'm pulling a standard style shot. Because I'm just literally pulling at 9 bars this entire time. That thick crema.
That looks pretty good, actually.
All right, I'm just gonna ramp down. And I am extracting at like kind of a longer, or longer time. So this is 37, a little bit longer by accident because I didn't stop the shot faster. But overall, the shot time's like 35. You know, I could even probably have ground this a bit finer and pushed a longer extraction time. But look at that.
Wow.
I mean, that's espresso. That is, visually speaking, a really nice shot. A lot of crema. This is possible with something like a Rocky. And I think this is going to taste completely fine if you like dark roast coffees. And there's nothing wrong with that. But this is really where the Rocky shines, to be honest. All right, well, I'm just going to pour myself some, pour John some. But, I mean, honestly, you know, it's a standard dark roast.
Cheers.
Cheers. Probably tastes fine.
Actually, it's pretty good.
This is actually quite enjoyable
Yeah, it's actually
as a
pretty
dark roast. It really is. So, yeah, I'm definitely getting this dark chocolate note and then the pralines in here.
Yeah.
Pretty decent body.
Yeah,
Definitely
super
very
thick.
decent body. You know, the one thing that's really cool about the Rocky, or this, maybe it's because it's a 50 mil flat, is in the finish. Is that I feel like with some small conicals, maybe it's even something like the Q2 heptagonal with dark roast coffees, I sometimes get a roughness with these smaller conicals in the finish. With this, you do get a smooth, I would say, you know, it's not the clearest or it's not the nicest finish out there, but it's all right. And
This would be really good in milk.
this would, yeah, he's right. This would be really good in milk, but you know, you can make espresso that is usable, standard. You know, keep everything standard. Don't do anything wacky. You do wacky turbos with this, it works. But like, I think this is really where the Rocky shines, is in just straight up traditional espresso, and that's why people have liked the Rocky for 20-something years. But adding these additional mods like the 3D printed stuff, tilt, stepless mod, alignment, all of that just makes your life a bit easier. So, but you know, you can extend the Rocky life. But in terms of coffee grinder modding, I think this one is definitely on not the best. Like, you're not getting the returns like you are. You know, if you think about like effort to returns, I would say hyper aligned Vario is probably like the best one right now. Then some of the Ode mods, but this one, if you have a 3D printer, you have some time, do this. Your life is going to be a bit easier. Of course, you know, remove the hopper, get rid of all the stuff that, you know, you get rid of all the stuff that can retain coffee. But honestly, like, this is not bad. If you could buy this, if this is how it came out of the box for $400, would not be complaining if all I was doing was drinking darker roast coffees and I was doing standard espresso. Overall, you know, that's the Titan Rocky. It's not really anything crazy here to say. The point here is that, look, you can turn a Rocky into a much more easy grinder to live with. Is it going to suddenly become amazing? Debatable. It is going to become much better when it comes to workflow, but that's what I wanted to show off today. This is the Titan Rocky. The modifications and all of that will be linked in the description below if you were interested in doing something like this. But for most of you folks, I think it's not really worth your time.
If you got a Rocky and a 3D printer and a lot of time, I would consider it.
Yeah,
but don't buy a Rocky to do this.
Do not buy a Rocky to do this. This isn't something like that Hyperline, like the Hyperline Vario. You know, people buy Varios just to modify them because you can take that grinder to the next level. This one is just do it for fun. Do it for the memes, okay? Like, this is for the memes. And honestly, I think it's up there when it comes to meme potential because we're getting a lot of fun out of this. Does it really do much? No, but it's a lot of fun, and that's really what the Titan Rocky is. And I really have a lot of fun when I use it. Does the coffee taste absolutely amazing? Sometimes, tastes pretty good when it comes to standard espresso, but you know, honestly, that's all I want to show off today. So thank you again for spending the time to watch the video. Thanks, John, for creating this abomination. I don't know, or absolute amazing creation. And yeah, that's all. So see you around.